In 1974, the first tabletop role-playing game was created. Since then, people from all around have gathered to play. Join me as we talk with RPG enthusiasts while they share their best, worst, and favorite moments. This is You Had to Be There.
Hey everyone, welcome to You Had to Be There, a D&D storytelling podcast. If it's your first time joining us, it's pretty much a podcast where we have RPG enthusiasts and we come on and we share some fun stories about playing Dungeons & Dragons or any other tabletop role-playing games. I'm Tom DeSillis, I'm the host of the show. Before we get started, I like to do some plugs. So before my intro, the music for my intro was created by my friend Michael James McGarry. You can follow him at It's MJ Made on Instagram or SoundCloud. And the logo for my show was created by Nicole Summers from the Reliably Chaotic Podcast, which is a D&D campaign podcast. And if you want to be a guest on the show, too, if you don't know me personally, it's really easy. All you have to do is follow us here on Twitch, or you can listen to the audio onlys pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. And then you just send me an email to youhadtobethere@gmail.com. And that's D&D with the 3 letters, not the symbol, not the A-N-D, just D-N-D. The link is in my description. And that'll bring me, my announcements are very short. So that's going to bring me, my guest today is Jay Pittman. Say what's up, Jay.
Hello.
Hey.
What's going on?
Not much, man, not much. So we've been, we got acquainted just pretty much a couple months ago, and pretty much our big connection right away was like...
Once I found out that you love D&D,
yeah,
my eyes sparked.
It's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of like the ears perk up when someone like mentions it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know when someone...
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't know, oh, actually, I don't know if I can... Anyway, I forgot to switch rules for a second. I was going to reference something.
Yeah,
I don't know 100% if I could reference it. But anyway... but yeah, like the light bulb goes on when someone mentions D&D. Do you find like sometimes in like real world, like if you just see the word initiative like in another thing that has nothing to do with Dungeons & Dragons, you're like, huh? Like you look over and you're like, oh wait, that has nothing to do with this at all.
I feel that when I hear perception or insight or investigation. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, are we rolling a D20?
Completely
or no?
Hardwired right now. It's like, yeah. In everyday life,
absolutely.
You're like, where is it? Where is this? Where are my keys? Where are my keys, honey? And she's like in front of you. I'm like, sorry, a little rolled low perception on that one, I guess.
Yeah, right.
How long have you been playing for at this point? Where did it all begin for you? What got you into this?
This is going to be year 3 or going on to year 4. And okay. I got involved because a lot of my friends moved to separate parts of New York. Okay. A lot of them live in the city. Some of them are in Yaphank. So we're all distant. We used to hang out all the time. We used to be very close. And a very dear friend of mine, Ryan, he had the idea that we should play D&D together, and we all like to role play, we all like games, we all like the culture, and right. we throw like an annual Christmas party, and we started his session 3 years ago. It was Out of the Abyss we started.
Okay,
and
cool.
Yeah, we started there, and it was a wild ride. We're not done yet, but it was a wild ride, so we kind of just fell in love with D&D from there.
Now, was this I know right now you mentioned you're kind of a forever DM at the moment. Were you DMing that game?
Yeah. No, he DM'd first.
Okay.
Yep, he DM'd first and did an absolutely amazing job. Still is who I go to for all my DM knowledge. And I am running the second campaign, and I'm basing it. I'm using the Princes of the Apocalypse book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you like homebrewing it at all, or do you pretty much running it straight through?
So in the beginning, he told me, he was like, hey, Jay, listen, you should do some one-shots to get your feet wet. And I was like, nah, I don't need to do that. So I just hopped right into it. In hindsight, I should have done some one-shots because I hopped in and I was pretty much following the book straight. And then it didn't feel organic to me because the players didn't really fit the location too well. You know what I mean? Right. So I wanted to spice it up a little bit. And that's when I started homebrewing a lot of it. And now it's like it's almost mostly homebrewed stuff that the players encounter.
Nice. So are you sticking to the main story and then just kind of like homebrewing from there?
So the way I describe it to people is that I'm using this book to be kind of like the skeleton, and the flesh and the meat and everything else I'm filling in with the homebrew stuff. So eventually they're going to follow the track of what the book tells, but a lot of the extra stuff I came up with myself.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think you kind of have to do that a little bit because it
I didn't
makes
know that
the
in the
game
beginning.
more personal, kind of. Like
Right.
if you run it straight through, because if you run a campaign straight through by itself like that, you don't really get, unless it's like really unless it just kind of happens ironically, like you don't really get that like backstory unless you add it in there. We've had a few situations in my past games where like our wood elf didn't know anything about his past or where he came from, and we found like a hobgoblin that had a bag of like wood elf heads, and I was like, oh dude, did you write that? And he was like, no, that was just in it. And like that was just kind of lucky.
Yes.
Right. And sometimes you get that too. Like one of the other situations was there was a church that got destroyed by a bunch of like goblins and stuff, and we went in and it happened to be the exact god of our cleric. So he went in like a bat out of hell, like super pissed off, and our DM was like, dude, that was in the module, that you just happened to pick that god. But so like some examples, like what have you done to like incorporate your own home brewed stuff in there?
So one of my players, he actually, Ryan, the DM that I was talking about, he started the campaign being related to another player, and they're Genasis, and I had a little quest line for them, and I didn't really know how I wanted to end it, and then I kind of stumbled upon the idea that my book is called Princes of the Apocalypse, so I wrote in that both of them are related to the elemental lords of their element. So there was like this big reveal, right? There was this big reveal where he finds out from a genie that his real parents aren't his real parents, but Yancy Ben is actually his dad, and he was like, whoa. And same thing with the other character. So
very cool. So they're almost like descendants of these gods.
Right, and their elements are the opposite. One's air and one's earth. So theoretically, these brothers that started out as brothers should be enemies at some point. So they're kind of dealing with that right now, that little tension right now.
Nice, so that's really creative. So there's 2 Genasis. What other members do you have in that party?
So there are 2 Genasis. I have a halfling barbarian, Canute, who is a very strong boy. I have a wood elf monk, Shin, and I have a sorceress, a noble sorceress, Zalaria, in there. So they all they all get along pretty well. But Zalaria is kind of like I don't want to give her the mom role, but she definitely keeps the other ones in line.
There's always a mom and dad in D&D. That is definitely what I've learned. There's always mom and dad. Whoever you end up on that side, it really depends. But
yeah, for sure.
Has that dynamic between the 2 Genasis like caused any rift between the other members?
Yes and no. Not necessarily taking sides, but some of the other characters aren't naturally familiar with the deities of D&D. A lot of them are just as regular as adventurers as they can be. They haven't experienced a lot of the world, and they've come from either like a monastery that was very closed off or a village way up north in like an ice town. So they don't really know these elemental things. So when these things pop up, they're kind of like shocked and blown away and not really sure how to handle it. But they're also ready to defend their friend's honor should it come down to that. So they work pretty cohesive. I can't lie. They work pretty cohesive.
How long has that game been running now? How long has it been?
Oh man, it's about to be 2 years in like February. A long time.
Wow.
A long time.
You guys play once a week, or?
Yeah, we play once a week. We play on Sundays. We'll do like maybe 5.5 hours.
Oh man, so you've really been, because I feel like I don't know how long Prince's is supposed to take, but have you been like really stretching it out with all your homebrewing?
Okay, so like I said, this is my first time DMing, and I made the mistake. I made the mistake of adding too many side quests at one time. So it stretched it, bro. It stretched it, and I was just like, if it's organic, it feels right. They're having fun. They're not. If they weren't having fun, then I would have cut a lot out. You know what I mean? Right. So they're enjoying it, so we're running with it. But now we're up to the last like third of it, and it shouldn't go on that much longer. So
with all those side quests, have you like balanced them? Like, have they leveled up? Because sometimes, like, I know with my first campaign, my DM, it was like his first time DMing, and he still to this day he's like, I gave you guys way too much good stuff right in the beginning.
And I agree with him.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what happened.
So you probably giving them all that side quests, like, were they like a couple levels over where they were supposed to be at that time?
They are still at the point where they're too strong.
They're too strong.
Now but now they're level 11, so I can make the encounters pretty tough. So it kind of like it balances out a little bit, but I want to say 5 through 8 or 9, they were incredibly strong.
Just ripping through.
Just ripping through encounters. And I have 2 borderline min-maxers, so they're just ripping through encounters, ripping through them. So yeah, that was great for me. I didn't know how to do that, but I do milestone experience, so I'll throw a bunch of side quests at them, but if they don't continue the main story, then they're not gonna level up. But
got it.
Yeah, that's how I did experience.
I think the milestone is just way easier. At like one point I was like, how am I supposed to do this? And then I was like, oh, you can do milestones. I don't DM that much, but like once I found out you could do that, I'm like, nah, that's fine.
Well, I do. My friend Ryan did the math for a lot of it, but then he did milestone.
Yeah, it's we already have to do enough math for this. Yeah,
exactly.
Nice. So what about you as a player? Like, I know you say you DM so much, but for how many characters have you had then? Did you just do the one character and then you've been DMing ever since? Really?
Mm-hmm. Just the one character, yep.
What about like any, not even like one shots or anything, or?
I've done maybe 2 one-shots, and they were just like, because I'm a writer, so when I make backstories for my characters, I write like 10 pages. Like, I'm one of those guys. So I dump my soul into backstories for characters, right? But for my one-shots, it's kind of just like whatever. Like, it didn't really matter, you know? So, just the one character. Just the one character.
So what was your one character?
He is a warlock fighter multi-class. Ooh. And he is a full chaotic neutral pirate. Give me all the booty. I want all the loot. I will rob the shopkeeper. I will do all that. Yeah. So I'm the captain of a boat.
So a warlock fighter that also is basically has a rogue mentality. Steal the things, get the things.
Yeah,
very
give me
cool.
all the things.
What did you start out? Did you start off as a fighter and then go to the warlock, or the other way around?
Other way around. I started warlock and then went fighter, because I always found myself fighting, and any combat that we would get into, I was always in melee range. I always played melee, wanted to play melee, but I really, like, if I made another character, I would probably pick a warlock again. I'm like one of those. Like, I really like that class, right? And then I went.
One of the few I have not tried yet. I got it.
It's good. It's good. And then I went fighter later on. So.
Nice. I mean, the fighter is unless you're like have no strength or no dex. I feel like fighter is one of those multi classes that you can kind of like multi class almost anything, just to like give yourself a little quick boost, and you just level 1, then you can heal yourself. Mm-hmm. Level 2, you can action surge, I think, is how that goes. And then,
yeah. Action surge.
It's
honestly, like, it's good on every class, like you said.
You can balance anything, pretty much. Splash a little fighter in there.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of what race were you?
Human.
Oh, just human.
Yeah, human. Yeah. I haven't. Honestly, I kind of made like a lot of short stories that I've written on my own time based off this character, and expanded his family. So every time I have a chance to play a new character, as long as it's in like a relatively similar world, I play one of his family members. So there's a lot of interlocking stories there. Like the next character that I'm going to play in my friends, we're doing Icewind Dale, and I'm playing his uncle in that one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think I might have to, I don't want to tell it too many times, but I did that almost by accident with one of my characters, my half-orc bard. And then, I kind of told you about that at one time. I made a human, and then happened to end up in the scenario with the human bard that essentially was the backstory of my half-orc bard. And I was like, wow, I just made... So now, like, a lot of the times recently, these past few months, we've been bouncing between the two campaigns that have those two characters. So, like, in the group chat, I'm like, who am I playing today? The father or the son? Like, which one?
I like that.
Nice. So, with your writing, what kind of stories do you write? So obviously, if you're using that character, is it fantasy realm stories, or are you writing a novel?
Yeah, it's fantasy.
What are you working on?
It's fantasy realm stuff, I would say. Most of it's like short, contained stories, and sometimes it's hard though because I don't like to write my first character. His name is Lucas. I don't really like to write too much about Lucas because the campaign's not done yet. So until the campaign's done, I can't really pluck him from that, and put him into a different setting. You know what I mean? Like I really want to. So I've just been writing more about his family during that time, what they've been doing, what they've been experiencing.
Interesting. So
like his older sister is an NPC in my campaign. His older sister is. She's an NPC for the players. Nice.
So, with that other campaign, how often do you guys do that one?
So since my friends are very dedicated to the long campaigns, like we talked about, if you have a D&D group, you can either do maybe a long one and a bunch of couple one-shots, or you're dedicated to the long ones. Right. And I think we're dedicated to the longer ones for as long as we can. So Icewind Dale will probably be starting full-time after I'm done with mine.
Oh, no, I meant the one that with your character in it. How often do you guys... You said it's not done.
Okay, yeah. So that one, we got up to level 15... right as we're about to fight the demon lords that actually got out of the abyss, and my friend decided to take a break, so we've been running mine since then.
So so you just took over, so once yours is done, then you're gonna go back
then
to
they can do whatever they want after that.
All right, nice.
Yeah.
Are you excited to get back to playing, or do you prefer DMing?
I think I like both 50-50 because there's a lot of joy in DMing, you know what I mean? Like watching your players go through the motions, like forming a cohesive group, and when they role play, I love it. When they role play hard, I love it. Watching them argue, watching them fight, watching them love each other, it's so weird, but I love all of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And being a player, you're a part of that journey, so it's a little different.
Yeah, I could see what you're saying. It definitely is good. Like I've only done one shots. I ran one, and the first couple, like I ran one for people who like hadn't played before, but I had one experienced friend, and it was very dungeon crawly, and he was like, he's like, you got to get these guys role playing more. So then the next one I did was like super role play heavy, and it was good. And it like I get what you're saying, and it's hilarious to watch them mess around. And one of them was new, and he was excited because he had a wizard and he had fireball, and he was like he was so trigger happy with the fireball, but didn't realize like how big the range was, and fireballed his own cleric, which made me laugh really hard. And that was like,
yeah.
So it was like really fun to watch him like work things out.
Right.
And, like, yeah. And it's good. No, I agree. It is good to open it up. I enjoy it. I'm like you, like even a one shot, like we're doing a Halloween one shot tonight, just like
nice.
And I was like, even though it's a one-shot character, I'm like, backstory. You need a backstory. I know it's not gonna matter. It's not gonna come up, but I have to think about it. Like, why is he this way? Why is he so weird? Yeah.
It's not gonna matter, but you need one.
I'm excited for that. Nice.
That's funny.
So you said, do you do like with it's kind of like a question that's kind of fascinating me when it comes to like NPCs and like you're saying the role playing. Do any of your players get into like romance stuff? Do you go into that, or do you keep it pretty like?
So yeah, actually, my barbarian character, he actually is crushing on that one NPC I told you about, Lucas's older sister.
It's always the NPC, man.
Yeah, it's always the NPC, right? Yeah. Yeah, they have a little crush thing going on. Yeah. So, and when however this campaign concludes, because we have all our campaigns in one universe, one world.
Right.
So however mine comes first in the timeline, however this ends will ultimately affect how Lucas and Canute the barbarian will meet. Maybe they'll meet sometime in the future because he'll be with Lucas's sister or something like that. You know what I mean? So the webs and the strings are starting to connect slowly.
Very cool. Yeah, and then your character can decide if he wants to play big brother or little brother. I guess I don't know which one it would be.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Very, very cool.
It's weird.
All right. So in these 3 years that you've been playing, this is always like my favorite part. How I like to kind of, let's start with your campaign that you were a player in. What was one of your favorite? Like what was like when you tell someone? It's like when you tell someone about Dungeons and Dragons, what's like the moment where like you're not gonna believe this happened?
Oh my god!
Or worst moment.
And this, I can't even say this is a favorite moment because there's two here. Mm-hmm. So there's a bard in my group. My friend George plays a bard, and him and my character Lucas were the chaotic tag team. When schemes, and bards, when schemes have to go down, sometimes you need a bard to help. So long story short, he helped me finesse a shopkeeper out of I think it's a superior healing potion, like a big, fat, like 10d4 plus 40 hit point. Yeah, like robs him blind of it. I mean, I ended up getting arrested, but arrested and where Galto Grim and all these things happened. But I still kept the health potion. But the one that really sticks out in my mind of something that was like my friend group felt the effects of it outside of the game. That's how I knew this was so heavy. That same bard decided, probably not on his own because I was probably instigating him. We were walking through a cave and there was a group of, I think they're called troglodytes, and they were speaking in a different language, and there was a river in between them, two factions on either side, and they were arguing. None of us could understand what they were talking about. And the bard, George, he looks at me and he was like, fireball? Like, should we cook them? And Lucas is chaotic. So Lucas was like, I guess you could, but you don't have to, but I guess you could. It was probably deeper than that. We have some lawful characters. They were not with it.
Right. They were like, don't do
so
this.
Long story short, the troglodytes got eviscerated. They got fireballed. They got nuked. And he was very strong. So he fried this whole group.
Well, you're a warlock too, so you have to cast it at the highest level, right?
True. Yes, I cast at highest level, but he casted it. I don't even know what level he casted it.
The bard threw the fireball.
The bard threw the fireball and cooked them. And when I say that almost ripped our group in half. Oh. Yes, it was very, 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 very bad. And it was one of those things that the DM, Ryan, he just had to let happen. So when I tell people about D&D, it's like, yes, it's role playing. Yes, it's combat and loot and getting more levels, but there's a lot of moral dilemmas that the players are faced with. A good DM will put moral dilemmas in front of you. You know what I mean? For you to act accordingly. Don't act as yourself. Like Jay and Tom, don't act like them. Who is this character? Flesh it out. How would they react to this?
Yeah.
And that, Lord.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine, especially
it was
with
crazy.
Like, I've been kind of lucky where like every time for some reason we have minimal communication other than I'm playing this class, and then we would all come with a party, and for some reason like we've almost always been on the same page. Like either we all decided that we're good, for the most part good, like either like chaotic good or like swaying that way, or like our second party we ever made was like just a total band of shitheads, just like we're like we have one goal, like we will put everyone's in life in the way as long as we can make the most amount of money.
Agreed.
And it's been kind of lucky in that sense. But like I haven't even I'm like waiting for that moment where I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? I would not do this, but
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's got
That's
to
how
be
my
really
group
hard.
is. We're always in
like,
different corners of it.
It's also like if you're like you said, like being true to the character. If 3 of them are making decisions in that one character, like that's, I mean, I'm sure people who commit to the roles would have a character leave a party and then roll up a new character. Like, you know,
yeah. One of my friends in that group, he was ready to leave the party.
Yeah.
He was absolutely, no jokes, was ready to leave the campaign for that.
That's
crazy.
I totally get it.
It's crazy.
And that's a hard thing to do too, because I'm guilty of that, where like I'm such a cautious person, and I'm so, when I'm trying to play a character that's like chaotic, and like I have friends who are so good at like I push the button, I push the button, I walk in, I take it, I steal it, and I'm trying to do that more. And like I did one, and I was like, there was a shiny jewel in the ground, and I like took it without anyone taking, and then I was like, great, I did it, I did something crazy. And then right away, I go to sell it, and they're like, that's a cursed jewel. You're cursed now. I was like, this is why I don't play characters like this. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be cursed. But I'm like, no, this is it. This is what I got to work on. So, yeah. But I like the bard instigating is really fun. Like my one of my parties is like, we have a monk who's just like dumb all the time, and he was like, he had this like itch cream, and then he was like, oh, I'll taste it. And he got like that powder that makes food taste good.
Yeah.
And he like tasted it, he's like, oh, that tastes awful. And me being the bard was like, maybe you should put that powder on it. And he was like, oh man, that's a good idea. Like but like it's funny to like that's why I like playing with a chaotic character, because I'm like, I'll push you to the edge. Like I'll push you to the edge.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Nice.
And the chaotic bard, oh my god, he was getting like +12s in his persuasion and deception. So like literally his will was just forced onto the world.
That's
you know what I mean?
That's scary. Yeah, at high
oh my
levels
god,
like that.
scary.
My bard's, well, one of them's stats are trash, so we don't have to worry about that. But nice. All right, so then like what about as well, are there any other ones from your playing time, or do you
Oh man, there's so many. There's so
I'm
many.
sure
When my character got his boat back, because he was a pirate captain.
Right.
When he got his boat back and saw that, and finally got a crew and was able to like pay them and treat them nice and do things for the crew. That was a very profound moment for him. Getting out of the Underdark, because we spent like a year underground. So that when I say that the world building that my friend Ryan did was, to me, a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It was incredible looking back. Yes, it was incredible looking back at the way he did it. And then I realized, like, when I started DMing, I'm not going to lie, I tried to replicate how strong he did it. And then I realized that I'm not really that type of DM, but it took me like 8 months to realize that, you know what I mean? So I was, I started to fit into my own style, like I like anime. I like dungeon crawling stuff. I like very over the top villains and crazy NPCs, like things like that. I put my time into building the characters like that. Not saying that he didn't, but that's where my strong suit is. So that's what I've amplified in my campaign. So it's working out now, finally.
It's good, man. I'm glad, I guess, I mean, that's the benefit to DMing for a while straight, and like you figure out what you did and you didn't do, and you kind of continue to adjust, and everyone's got their own style. I haven't really figured it out yet. It took me, I find like doing a dungeon crawl is easier because it's just so like there's not really much places you can go. The one I ran recently where it was like very heavy role playing and they could do this and they could do that, like it gets intimidating, especially when like the first one shot I did, there was like 2 people you could talk to, and like this one they were like asking me questions, so I had to make someone up, and then they were like, well, we want to go talk to that person. I'm like, you as the player 100% know that this person was made up. You know how I know? Because I said, sure, their name is Sarah, and I wrote Sarah on the thing, and they're like, well, we think Sarah's a suspect. I'm like, you know damn right, but like, you know, sometimes your friends are kind of an asshole, so like, but it was funny and it worked, but like that's where like that's a skill that you need to develop too. And
improvising.
I commend DMs who just like, there's a character now that we had to just make up.
Yep.
Hell yeah. So what about your games that you've been running now? What kind of a dynamic? Are they mostly good in this one, or are they?
One is lawful good. So the monk is lawful good. Big oof. So he's trying to save everyone at all times, and then we have some chaotic. The sorcerers are chaotic neutral. So morally, there's not too many people in danger. Morally, you know what I mean? Where they come to disagree is how they're going to complete a task. Like, say they're like storming a castle. Right. Some people want to take the front entrance. Some people don't want to take the front entrance. So then half the session is them trying to figure out how they're going to do it. My spellcasters are way more cautious innately, because my min-maxers are my monk and my barbarian Canute. So they don't care. Put 100 people in front of them, they want to fight everybody. Right. So, and they all roleplay so incredibly well that at this point at level 11, it's a little bit easier for them to figure out what to do. But they're still spending a lot of time
just like figuring out. Let's just do it the honorable way. I'm sure. Like who's the chaos? You said but the monk is lawful good though.
The lawful good one is the monk. Then my Genasi, my air Genasi is a sorcerer. That's Ryan's character. And then Lady Zelaria, she is chaotic neutral as well.
Gotcha. So they probably want to go more the sneaky route, while the monk's like, no, we go the honorable way through the front door and make our way.
Just knock and say hello. We're here. Yeah.
So what kind of crazy stuff has happened in your games? What are some of your, either when your players have like major jaw drop or like or things you've done to them? What kind of like?
So one thing for me that I homebrewed that kind of like it took some of them for surprise, and I try to slowly link our two campaigns, mine and Ryan's. So they have an NPC named Julius. He's pretty much the guy that got them to this area. He's like the main quest giver. Mm-hmm. He got like mentally subdued by some sort of spirit or like possessed by something, and they had to perform an exorcism. But the guy that helped them with this exorcism was pretty much like, oh no, we're not taking the spirit out. We're putting your consciousness or your souls inside him, and you guys are going to go inside and rid his body of the spirit. So
that's such a cool idea, man. That's such a cool idea.
No, thank you. So let
me understand. So instead of getting the spirit out, they had to get the party members into his head to fight the spirit to get it out.
Yes, and the person that helped them was like a super retired level 20 wizard that he's sipping tea and he's not thinking anything of it. We can blink your consciousness into his body super easily. Like,
oh my god, that's such a dope idea.
Oh my god, thank you.
I love that idea.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So from there, they entered a tax office in one of the layers of hell. They didn't know how. So they entered like a literal tax office. Like there's a demon sitting there flipping through papers. He's stamping envelopes, and he explains to them, there's like a big quest reveal here. So he explains to them all that purpose. But the link here between the two campaigns was that one of the demons from out of the abyss that we ended up fighting, the players in my campaign saw that big demon walking through that layer of hell as my new party is walking the opposite direction to go help. And Ryan's the only one that picked that up, obviously, because he's the DM of his thing. But he picked up that I said, oh, blah, blah, blah is walking in this direction, and he's talking about this demon from out of the abyss that the first party fought.
Dude, that's that big world building, man. That's layers. That's layers. I love that, man. I love.
Thank you.
But the demon, that was at the tax, like which was the demon that they had to fight to get rid of?
Oh, the tax guy pretty much pointed them in that direction.
Gotcha.
And he was explaining how like different characters in the campaign sold their souls and what they sold their souls for. And, you know, he offered them something, but he offered them a contract, but it would cost one of their souls. Obviously, none of the players took the contract. So I kind of just, I didn't want to force them into
nonsense.
Yeah, right. I didn't want to force the players into it. So I just presented it. They said no. And then they went and fought the spirits and freed the guy. So nice. And then like when the spirit like died there, did it like get jettisoned out, or it was just dead? It was just dead. Right, yeah, cool. It was just dead. See, the length of my campaign is the length is pretty long. So I've been trying not to just add things. When things are done, they're done. Like if it's dead, it's dead. You know what I mean?
No, that's a good move.
Yeah.
I really like. That is such a cool, like, plot point. I really like meaning.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I hope, and this is kind of like what I like about that, like, not as like an almost like anyone hearing this, like, might take that idea, because I think that's a really good idea.
Yes. And like you told me when I first met you, so many people have such crazy good ideas for D&D.
Yeah.
Oh my god. There's just an endless well of information for DMs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love it. One
of my favorites was a past guest, Matt Hogan. He'll put a spell scroll, but the spell scroll was made by a wizard that wasn't very good, and like a small word will be altered. So like, it looks like it'll be like the one, his episode's called An Absolute Lemon, because it looked like it was summon lesser demon, but unless you roll a high arcana check, you won't pick up on it. So they go to try and summon a demon, and just a bunch of lemons come out, because it was summon less lemons. Yeah, it was like, or summon greater demon, and it was greater lemons. Yeah. So like, just like funny shit like that. That was a great one too. Another one, Adam Bakari pulled some of the older systems would do like skill checks, so it was like skill in initiative, so they were like piloting a submarine, and like everyone had their job to do, so it was like, we're going this way, it was my turn, I'm the navigator, I'm looking through the porthole, so I'm just rolling perception check to like, and everyone has to pass these skills to get the thing to move, so it's like really creative ways to incorporate and there's always like cool ways to do that. I've talked to some people who are like, they're like, this was from a player's point of view, but she spent most of her time like in the first like 20 minutes of every campaign, they were just playing blackjack as the characters in a bar, but like that was fun to them, because they were just like, they were being their characters playing whatever, you know?
Yeah. Wow, interesting. I like the submarine one.
Yeah, that's like apparently that's like it's like an older, from previous editions, they would do like more skill check based things. So I really like that. I think that's a cool way to kind of incorporate it. You know what's a really useful, it's kind of an interesting DMing method that my DM's been using. Before the campaign, before we start, she asks us a question about, like, she'd be like, what's your character's like what's your character like most afraid of, or like what's your character's least favorite food, or something like that. Just something weird to like get you thinking about the character. Like, it was like, what if your character had a theme song, what would their theme song be? And it's just like,
does she apply it to the campaign, or just like a
she
question
might
about the
I mean, this is like recent, she started doing with us, but she does it with her other groups, but she might apply it to the campaign. Like one of the monk, he said his fear was I forgot what, it's like that art where it's like braids tied together, like ropes tied together, and that was his fear. So like he's always annoying, like running around, so we threw a cargo net on him to like keep him still, so like, because we knew it was his big fear. But I think it's also just about, I think her method behind it is just to get you thinking more in depth about your character.
Yeah, right.
And interesting. I think that's a cool method also. Nice. We probably got enough time for like one more story if you got another good story from your campaign that you've been running. I'd love to hear it.
So I have a lot of sessions where my players go to like different dimensions and different planes.
Okay.
because why not? Honestly, right? So currently, right now, they are in the Shadowfell, trying to rid an evil queen off her throne, because this evil queen has some things to do with the backstory. And I know my friends are going to watch this, so I'm not going to drop anything that is about to happen. I know they're going to watch this, but so just something interesting that I have learned as a DM is that, like I said, you have the skeleton, like the information is out there for a lot of different things, and tailoring it to your world is like a very beautifully creative thing that I've done. You know what I mean? Like the more days that they spend in the Shadowfell, since they're not used to sleeping and surviving in the plane of death, they have to roll on this thing called a despair chart. So they have to pass a wisdom saving throw, or they suffer levels of despair that are like exhaustion levels, but like not at the same time. But like you'll get disadvantage on your death saves, disadvantage on all your skill checks. You're frightened by the first enemy you see. You refuse the help action, and you refuse healing pots from your allies. So really to hit home that like you are not supposed to be here, and the levels stack, they don't go away. You know what I mean? So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, right. So, and in the beginning, my friend said that they want a hard campaign. So I'm trying to give them a hard campaign, especially at this point when they're super strong.
Right.
But yeah, it's just the artistic poetry of crafting an area that is not in any book. Like this just came from my brain, you know what I mean? And they're like, whoa, what is happening? Seeing that whoa moment is a beautiful thing for a DM. I love that part.
That's another great corporation, man. That you bring some next levels to the game, man. Wizards of the Coast, hit up Jay Pittman. You need him.
Yes,
on the writers team.
Appreciate it. Anybody wants to play, I'm here.
Nice, man. You should think about. I know you're busy because like you work and you got your son and stuff, but like you should look into if you ever have free time. Like a couple of my past guests do professional DMing, and you can do that. There's a site. Jacob Cordes is one of the guests on here that he's got his name up there. He says I run these systems, and I think he's doing that like full time. It's like he's just like running a lot of games. Yeah, I mean I don't know how much it pays, but like at least it's fun. You can make a little money on the side. Some people do one shots, and yeah, I think it's like for someone like you, I think you could it could be a nice side hustle for you. I think.
Interesting. You are so wise, Tom.
I'm not wise. I just talk to a lot of people that know more about this than me.
Thank you.
But man, what cool things. I think I'm gonna call this episode "Fight Your Inner Demons" because that is the coolest. Yes. That is the coolest thing.
Yes, they have to.
I'm like someone. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Do you have anything that you like to plug? Do you Twitch stream at all? Do you do anything like that?
No,
you don't have to. It's just I leave it open.
I have no plugs really. Only thing I would say is be kind to everyone. Love yourself. You know what I mean? Have fun. Be creative, and put your heart and soul into the things you like to do.
That was beautiful. It was a beautiful sign off. And now I'm going to ruin it by plugging my stuff. Okay.
Yeah, plug it up.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Once again, my name's Tom DeSillis. I'm the host of the show. I'm also a stand-up comedian. You can find me at Tom DeSillis Comedy on Instagram. Go there for shows. And you could do T DeSillis Comedy is when I usually tweet out when we're going live on this show. And one more time, if you want to be a guest on the show, it's really easy. Just email me at youhadtobethere@gmail.com. That's DND with the 3 letters. It's in the link on my description. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, and obviously follow us here on Twitch or subscribe on wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much everything you need to do. And tell your friends. I've gotten a couple emails from people saying that they enjoy the show, and that means a lot to me. It really, really does, because like these things are all word of mouth. So if you're listening and you enjoy, even if you're not ready to be a guest, maybe you know someone who does want to be a guest. I'm always looking. So thanks for anyone that's been listening and all the support. But once again, this has been You Had to Be There, a D&D storytelling podcast with Jay Pittman. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.